Amid the Black Death, a mysterious doctor arrives at the city prison, promising to control the outbreak in the cells. After lights out, he keeps the keys. By dawn, chains lie folded and 3 bunks are cold. You're watching the Macabre. Physician. Subscribe for weekly historical horror. Avignon 1348. The city jail doubles as quarantine when plague thins the patrols and thickens the fear. Cells sweat vinegar. The chapel serves as an infirmary with straw pallets, clay basins, and a bell to pace the night. The warden wants order more than sleep. He gets a physician. He arrives after vespers in oiled black cloth, wide brim hat, a leather beak pitted like old coins. He speaks softly like a man who has practiced mercy until it sounds like math. Isolation first. Light harms the lungs. Silence steadies the blood. I'll control the outbreak in the cells. Guards, grateful for instructions that feel like shields, hand him the keys to the infirmary and the ledger that names the sick. He writes each name beautifully, then reduces it to initials to protect reputations. Curtains go up. Lamps dim to coins. Chains are folded at the foot of bunks to calm the fever. He makes the rounds with a brass censer and a black book that ticks when opened. Breathe with the smoke, he tells the shackled, and the room learns his rhythm. Left, right, pause. The warden likes the sound of discipline. The guards like that. The coughing softens. In the corridor, echoes are dismissed. In the infirmary, obedience replaces prayer. By midnight, the prison believes it is safer. By dawn, 3 bunks are cold, and the ledger looks tidier than truth. The doctor promised control. He never said of what dot. The warden brought him the sick list. A carter who coughed iron. A pickpocket with a fever that rang. A guard's cousin held for his own good. The physician bowed. The sort of bow that makes locks feel properly used. Control begins with quiet, he said, and trimmed every lamp until gold turned to throat. Curtains were strung between beds so doubt would meet fabric, not faces. Vinegar bowls took their stations like sentries. He asked for the infirmary keys to spare the healthy the burden of pity. The ring hissed across the desk. Metal learned his hand. He opened the ledger with a bell-soft click, wrote each name carefully, then drew a line and rewrote them as initials that obeyed columns better than men. To protect reputations, he murmured. The warden nodded because reputations sometimes outlive bodies. The first round felt like confession. He touched wrists with 2 steady fingers, counting breath into the sensor's rhythm. Left, right, pause. You will inhale on the turn, he told the carter, and the cough retreated into manners. You will watch the wick, he told the pickpocket, and the fever decided to arrive on schedule. To the cousin, he offered a drop that smelled of rue and winter apples. This teaches the lungs to pray, he said, and the man believed because believing used less strength than doubt. Chains were folded at the foot of bunks, less weight on the chest. Guards liked the sound of that. The door to the infirmary learned a new vow, latched from within. When a sergeant frowned at the click, the physician praised him for vigilance and asked him to dismiss echoes in the corridor. The sick sleep better when stone forgets its voice on the page. Order lined up like troops, initials in the left margin, times in the right. Small verbs marching between, mixpose, turn, .com, repeat. Where space narrowed, he drew a boxed mark. He favored in a thin arrow that pointed toward the side door the draft preferred. Has the pest reached us? The warden asked, voice kept low as if fear were contraband. The physician angled a lamp so the beak's shadow lay neatly across the book. I am ahead of it, he said. He did not say how far ahead or in which direction. Near midnight, he created a quiet row. 4 the most fragile 3 beds by the side door. Curtains tied just so. A guard offered to keep watch. Mercy needs fewer witnesses, the physician replied. He gave the man a task on the outer hall. Count the bells that would not ring. Inside, The sensor traced low circles. Breath braided to chain. The room discovered that obedience can look like healing when night is the doctor. First interval. T announced to no one and to the keys at his belt. They answered in the language of iron and certainty. He named the 3 bunks by the side door, the quiet row. And quiet obeyed. Lamps thinned to thumbnails. Curtains met like lips that had agreed to keep a secret. He lowered the sensor until smoke learned to crawl, teaching lungs to keep time the way a lock keeps hours. Inhale on the left. He murmured at each wrist. Return on the right. Hold the pause as if it were prayer. He praised compliance as courage. The carter's cough folded itself into the chain's rhythm. The pickpocket, who once timed his life by footsteps behind him, began to count by links. 1, 2, rest. The guard's cousin watched the wick walk instead of burn. Fear, given a job, tired, faster than men. A turnkey drifted in with questions that preferred uniforms. Warden wants names whole, he said, squinting at the ledger. The physician tapped the left margin where initials behaved better than prisoners. Reputations, he said softly. And the turnkey found that word heavy enough to carry back without argument. He adjusted the ward in small, obedient ways. A bowl of vinegar moved to a colder flagstone. A curtain's not learned to hold its breath. A candle shifted, so the shadow made a cross only when he wanted one. He measured with drops and with silence, changing neither too quickly. When a hand trembled, he gave it work hold, the strip of linen. Count to 5, watch smoke, find the corner, and return at the latch. He listened for drafts. The door had not reported. The key turned like a habit. Ian remembered his hand. For safety, he told the hallway, and safety, relieved to be assigned. Withdrew. The guards liked to hush, because hush meant fewer choices. The warden liked the neatness, because neatness is the last authority left when the city's is failing. In the book, order continued to assemble. Left column letters, that could be anyone. Right column minutes, that could be mercy. In between them, the same small verbs, spose, turn. Come that let night claim it had done its duty. Near one bell the bell that didn't ring, he chose to for closer watching. Curtains slid together with a courtesy that felt like gratitude. Observation shortened suffering, he told the room. And the room relaxed because sentences that start like that usually end with permission. The turnkey lingered, uncertain which rules were his. Do I stay? Dismiss echoes, the physician said, not looking up. They agitate the fever. The man stepped into the corridor and practiced being a missing witness. Inside, traced the sensor lower, almost at the level where chains once lay. Breath matched it, obedient as a drilled line. He straightened a tag, boxed a neat mark beside a fresh set of initials, and drew a thin arrow no one else would learn to see pointing toward the side door the draft preferred. Toward a corridor the warden did not inventory. Toward a conclusion the ward had already accepted. He renamed the screened corner observation, and the word behaved like a blanket. Light learned to whisper. Smoke crawled at ankle height, teaching breath to choose smaller roads. Hold the pause, he told the carter, 2 fingers on the wrist that kept his time. Follow the wick, he told the pickpocket, trimming the flame until it walked instead of ran. The cousin nearest the latch was given a task. Count the links. Forget the door. The chart became a liturgy without a priest. Left column, initials that could be anyone. Right column, minutes that could be mercy. Between them, the little verbs that make night sound clinical expose, turn, calm, repeat. When the line grew crowded, he boxed a mark he liked more than names and drew a thin arrow no turnkey would notice. Coughs softer. The guard offered, bargaining for relief. The room has learned discipline. He corrected gently, and the sensor traced a lower circle. A trimmer reached for the curtain seam. He praised the bravery, then placed a hand on a folded cloth and let obedience finish the lesson. Outside, keys rehearsed, not chiming. Footsteps decided to be memory. A bell in the tower tried one note and let it die. Time, domesticated, went where he pointed. He tested the side latch for drafts. Iron, well taught, turned without speaking. Inside, chains lay folded like old arguments. On the page, he wrote a calm that hadn't happened yet, and then arranged the beds until it did. The ward mistook stillness for healing. He called it readiness and boxed another neat mark. Wind worried the shutters. The infirmary answered by holding breath. He set the black book where a Bible might sit and leaned the candle so page shone while faces did not. The turnkey brought the day ledger names written whole by hands that still believed in them. He slid oilcloth across the lines and rubbed until ink blurred into weather. Reputations, he murmured, rewriting each as obedient letters. The guard stared at the initials and found them heavier than names. Until discharge, the physician said, and the word discharged the argument. The warden arrived on quiet boots. Progress. The outbreak is contained to the quiet row, the doctor replied, showing tidy columns that looked like virtue. The warden read neatness and felt safe. He did not read the thin arrow in the margin pointing away from the beds. Toward the door no one counted. The carter's chest kept the chain's rhythm. The pickpocket's fever arrived on schedule. The cousin stared at the wick until tears forgot to form. He praised them with a priest's voice, boxed ready beside their initials, and closed the book with reverence a relic might deserve. Third interval, he said to the keys at his belt. The keys agreed in the language of iron. Donned pressed a pale thumb into the slats and waited to enter. The warden, sleepless, came for names to carry to the city. The latch answered in a small iron voice. The curtain breathed without moving. The quiet row had prepared to be believed. Blankets smoothed flat. Bowls turned mouth down like obedient mouths. The lamp held a cold halo. On the table, the black book lay open, left column initials that could belong to anyone, right column times that agreed with themselves. The seam between them stitched with expose, turn, calm. At the bottom, a tidy box in the thin arrow that refused to point back. Roll call, a warden said. But the room did not understand whole names. A folded chain lay where a wrist had been. A strip of linen waited in a patient circle. Straw held heat that should have left hours ago. At the side door, a draft declared itself innocent. The latch remembered a hand that wasn't theirs. Beyond the wall, boards had learned to keep secrets. A cart practiced not being seen. The turnkey looked at the ledger, at the arrow, and chose not to speak. The guard touched the empty bunk and called it procedure. The warden swallowed a question and called it order. The physician returned with vinegar on his gloves and the calm of a solved equation. Contained, he reported. Discharge pending. He touched the book with 2 fingers and blessed its certainty. The living are spared. The sentence did not specify who had done despairing by noon. The story fit the city's ears. The infirmary passed a quiet night. The ledger balanced. 3 initials awaited discharge. Doors learned to close faster. Bells rehearsed, ringing only once. He left by the service passage. Keys remembering his hand. The book tucked like a relic under his arm. On the last line he had written nothing, only the arrow. If this case unnerved you, like the video and subscribe to the Macabre Physician New Historical Horror every week.